yeah.
I am Jay LaRock, and this is GPS, and today we are talking Hawken, where you jump into awesome mechs and battle it out on alien worlds. And it's a lot more than that. And since I've played the game, but there are people out there that are real vets, and I'm going to make sure that we get this right. And one of the great people to get this right is CapnJosh, and we're happy to have him here talking to us about Hawken. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So, I think that it should be clear from the very beginning that, I've played the game. I remember watching it back in the day, and I was like blown away from everyone else seeing the visuals and the gameplay and things like that. Mm-hmm. But I think that it's clear to say that there's a difference between people who have been around from the beginning and are vets, and then people who have played it, maybe stopped and then come back, because there's a difference between that passion where someone's going to have all these questions, they know every single thing, and then someone who's casual, and then you want to get things right. I think though that maybe you start just with the beginning, with the gameplay, what people really like about jumping into a game like this. I guess start with just the game itself. I mean, you have like the first person shooter aspect, but you have it with like giant mechs, you have the worlds, you have how it looks. You yourself just dealing with producing it, being around the community. What is it that drew you into the game so much that that you like so much about the game?
I'm kind of a sucker for mechs. Ever since I was probably, junior high, first played my first tabletop game of BattleTech. And it's kind of the pen and paper aspect of designing it and then jumping in and playing it and stuff. With Hawken, we had picked this game up back in February this year. And this is one of these games that I never thought I'd ever even be able to have anything to do with. So it's kind of a dream come true. The thing that I love about it, though, is that, yes, you're in a mech, and I love the movement. It's a unique movement feel when you're playing the game. You've got a lot of FPSs that you can play. This one actually does have a unique feel, and I rather enjoy that. And I think there's going to be a longevity to that. I think, obviously, as everybody says, the visuals are amazing. And looking at how the art is constructed and talking with the original founders and the art leads and concept artists, they're true artists, and it's been amazing to see their work and have a chance to talk with them and sort of learn from what they've done. Just today, I've been looking through how they constructed stuff in the code and how everything kind of worked. It's pretty amazing. There's some really, really good stuff, and I hope that we can just kind of keep continuing it.
So for someone that started back in the day and they were playing the games, one of the things I was looking when I was researching, the different types of questions to ask, because you're going to have people who are watching who maybe they played back in the day and then they stopped. So obviously, when Reloaded came and they take over, obviously you want to have new people coming in, but you have the community that was loyal for a long time. I guess one of the first things is how do you approach that balance where you say, hey, obviously we have to bring new people in, and the vets understand that. But at the same time, you have to balance the two. Like, how do you approach balancing bringing in new people, but staying loyal to the veterans that have been there, through it all?
This is always going to be the tough one, because in its current state, and I'll kind of tip my hand as to some of what the numbers look like for Hawken, as like the current survey that's gone up and that's up right now, as well as ones in the past that I've found, it's like 98.6% of people say, I want to continue playing Hawken. I love this thing. But after 3 days, they're kind of done. They don't really come back on like day 7 retention rates is what they're called. And specifically why is kind of the $1 million question. We think it's going to be, you very quickly kind of get an idea of, oh, this is Hawken, and I understand what it is, and the majority of it is you sort of have wrapped your head around it. And then I think it's a bit of a personality thing too. So there's some people who genuinely enjoy and savor the chance to identify the subtleties in what Hawken is and how it plays and how to optimize the tune and become really, really good at it. And it's amazing. It's pretty fascinating. I think there are going to have to be a few changes to make it a bit more appealing for just a broader range. I don't think they need to be that significant, though. I suspect that it's going to be a lot to do with, well, we want to add new mechs, and we want to add new maps and game modes. I think the majority of this sort of diversification and a broader appeal is going to come from that, just from a different or broader range of things that people can really do, if that makes sense. It's always depressing to think, yeah, we're going to make decisions that's going to really tick off some people. Like, I don't want to. There's definitely no need to, I think. So it's just how do you start that balance? And that's the tricky, hard part. And I think once we get to the point where we have the dev team fully rebooted and hired up, and we get the early sort of play tests for the new maps, game modes, and new mechs, that's when we're going to really be able to say, okay, so this is where the sticking hard points are going to be for people to sort of digest or accept. This is going to be the good stuff, and then it's going to bring in the vets and get their opinions and really push for it. And they're going to be able to help define which direction it has to go.
So for some people that may not have understood like what happened, could you walk us through, because people talk about the dark times, and that's basically when, you know, the game kind of went quiet. Yeah. And, you know, maybe there's some things that you won't be able to completely talk about, but can you talk about like that transition period, you know, when you guys took over the game, and, you know, just tell us, you know, for people that maybe didn't follow the story, about what actually happened and what took place when you took over.
Let's see. In short, it kind of came down to metrics-wise, it was just conversion rate, a low conversion rate, as in like the percentage of players who play and end up paying something to, you know, just ongoing revenue stuff. It wasn't big enough to support a full dev team or all the media or stuff like that. And everybody genuinely believed that Hawken it's a great product and it needs to stick around. So instead of doing anything extremely drastic, I mean, they'd explored a few options, I suppose. They said, okay, let's just sort of get it in a stable state, and then we'll have to just kind of step back and then wait for negotiations or a buyer or creditors to decide what they really want to do. That's effectively what the silence was. I don't know about if there were like legal things where like you can't talk or can't do this, can't do that. I'm not sure about those because I'm not privy to those details in this case. But suffice it to say, these guys sort of created a time capsule and then sealed the game and made sure that it was in a solid state and it was in a good spot. So it kind of stayed that way. And then our CEO, I don't know how it happens. Like, he just kind of knows tons of people. And someone had actually kind of started talking to us to see if, could you guys possibly take this thing and run it, make sure it sticks around, keep it safe, and then just do whatever it takes to then expand it and continue operating it, find out what needs to happen. Is it a viable long-term product, all this sort of thing. And that was, I think, January 7th or something. Specifically, I walked into the office one morning and we had a whole bunch of servers just sitting in the entryway. We're talking like 20 machines. And we're going, what is all this stuff? Where'd this come from? And one of our IT guys said, I think it's Hawken. I was like, what? Hawken? I thought it was still running. No, I don't think these are like the game servers and stuff. Something else. So that kind of kicked off the whole exploration phase of what's going on, what stages it's in. And very quickly we found out it's running on AWS and a couple other places, and we need to figure out how it works, how it's all wired together, recover accounts, recover systems, and like fix stuff that's going to be breaking or something. And for about a month or so, it was a big process of trying to seamlessly migrate things over to our accounts, to play in different servers, different hardware. And then from then on was when we finalized the acquisition, technically. And really since then, it's been let the game kind of run, just let it get to a steady state, which took about 2 months to see like what is the genuine interest sort of after the word on the street comes out that there's a new developer, new owner and stuff. And we've had a good 7-week negotiation with a partner that we have now. I can't talk about it yet, but it's really freaking cool. And so currently we're hiring up a team. We have our tech director. We have our core engine developer. We have a main rendering guy. So our sort of core tech team is there, and we're interviewing technical artists and gameplay programmers right now. Once those are in place, it's going to be rebuild the whole build systems, and then start making changes. Yeah.
So obviously, when making these kind of changes, when people read that a game that they love, especially like the veterans that have been along for a long time, and then they hear that someone's bringing it back and they're making these changes, they want to make the improvement. Of course, you have people that are really happy and they're going to say, "Wow, that's great that you guys are going to come and do this." And then you hear that these changes are being made. Of course, on the other side, anyone that knows the gaming community knows that if changes don't come quick enough, there's going to be
Right.
upset. Obviously, working with a community that you have to weather that storm because some people are going to be upset and it's going to be irrational, but sometimes there's going to be some points that are true.
Mhm.
Are there little points of explaining to people that months later, when changes don't come, that you can say, "Hey, listen, maybe I can't tell you the sausage making, but I can
Right.
explain, hey, look, yes, it has been months since we have acquired, but
Mhm.
hiring these people does take months. I can't just run out and hire these people just like that. We don't learn the code just like that. We can't release maps just like that, because if we do, you will probably come back and say you just threw this out either as a money grab or as
Right.
just a quick nod to the fans. It's not something that is a really quality work."
Mhm. So like as to why it's been taking so long, I think maybe that's the real question.
Yes.
It's So I mean, I can like step through the specifics. It's like, okay, so you don't want to do massive changes in the first month after you get the game. I think in retrospect, really, if somebody's going to be acquiring a game, make sure you have sort of at least a core tech team who can digest it all, look through the code, and then try to do a client patch as early as possible, because that's going to, number one, show movement. It's going to sort of consolidate that, yeah, you're the new developer, you've actually changed it, because we still have like the Meteor Entertainment logos and stuff in there because we haven't done a client patch. It's a little bit awkward. I mean, granted, in our case, this came out of the blue very, very quickly, so we couldn't have the dev team. We're building up the dev studio capacity now. So I thought it would be about around 5 months or so by the time we'd get a client patch out. We're obviously we've hit that now, I guess. And we still don't have a client patch. I mean, we're very close. It's not going to take a huge time. I've had the time to go through the code and the systems and the builds and stuff myself. We had that 7-week negotiation that started about a month and a half or so after we acquired the game, and this would significantly determine which direction we would go and how the development would look. So that unfortunately kind of pushed everything off by 2 months. But I couldn't say anything during that. You can't, and you don't want to say anything because that could throw off the negotiation. It could throw off what expectations are, and really, while you're negotiating, you don't want to have a ton of moving pieces everywhere. At least that's what we did, anyways. In retrospect, it might have been good to say, hey, we got something going on. It can't really make any big moves right now, so we're going to have to let the game simmer as it is. That probably would have been a good idea, but I'm not sure. We'll see.
Yeah. There's always those things, because when you reveal something, then someone's like, "Hey, you're not telling us everything. What are you hiding?"
I know. I have to hide too much. I don't want to.
As far as for something made for new players, I saw a few people comment that, sometimes when you have a smaller community, and obviously if you have a change of the guard, you will have some people leave. So you're bringing in some new people, some new blood, but then you have the old guard that, they're loyal to the game, they really love the game they're playing. Some people said a side effect of that is that when you get into a match with a new mech, and you're starting with the starter mechs, you're going against players that maybe have different mechs, and that they're getting slaughtered. Since it's the free-to-play model, they start to believe that, oh, these veterans bought these mechs, therefore it's pay to win. Now, if you do more research, which I made sure read and learn more, because like I said, I'm not a veteran, so I had to read and understand. Obviously, I know just by a fact that's not pay to win, but then you realize, no, it's because these veterans actually play more.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way to kind of tell new players that, listen, since it's a smaller community, you're more likely to go up against veterans, so you kind of need a learning curve? Because let's face it, I just being in gaming for a long time know that gamers, if they get beat too quickly, they're more likely to quit than stick it out and learn.
That's true. It sucks, man. I got rolled tons when I first played Hawken. I found, okay, with Hawken, it's kind of interesting. I think with the additional movement options, the dodge mechanics, and sort of how these mechs operate, it took me about a week and a half sort of playing every day before I went, oh, I get it. Oh, this is great. And then I could start competing. And then I created a test account, just a whole new account to just try it out, to try out the whole new user experience, just to make sure things were broken. I started playing and realized, holy cow, I'm destroying everybody. And the reason is that 10 days, it's that big of a difference with Hawken. And then these vets, I mean, they're top tier players in all kinds of FPS games as it is, but with the additional time, especially in Hawken and getting to know the map, the various maps, they're that good. It's insane. And they know that. They're very quick to point that out too. But with Hawken, it has a fairly high skill ceiling. Some would argue that it's not high enough, or it could be higher. I'm not sure. I think the majority of players, we're never going to be as good as like the top 5, top 10. They just have a gift. And but really, is a sheer point of fact, like Hawken is not pay to win. It was designed explicitly from the ground up to be not pay to win. They actually removed some mechanics that tweaked it towards pay to win. And at this point, it's really just you can pay something to just pay to not grind as much. And ultimately, that's how it's always going to be. It's never going to be, hey, you got to pay money to win. Yeah, I guess it's pay to not grind, pay to not have to spend as much time.
Yeah, when I look at it, a lot of it is just like if you want cosmetics, and that seems to be like a smart thing, and people did mention, the people came in and said, listen, I know that when new people come into a game, especially when it's free to play, people immediately say pay to win, and they said, no, Hawken is not like that. Yes, you can lower some of what people call the grind, but that would be it, and you can add some cosmetics, but that's the only factor that to it. It's not that you're just paying to be able to demolish somebody. That takes playing, and yes, you have to get your butt kicked to be able to play better. That's just a fact of life in these type of games.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, once you kind of, because Hawken's really fast once you're in it, especially with really, really good players, and it's just sort of overload. I don't even know what's going on. But once I slowed myself down and realized, oh, the secret is to fire, dodge, and then try to anticipate where the other guy could dodge next. Once I got that, there's this rhythm that develops, and it starts to feel very fluid, and it's really satisfying. I won't say a zen feeling, but it's a pretty satisfying play experience.
Now, a friend of mine, Magnolia, wanted me to ask about this because he played all the way back in beta and stuff, and he talked about some of the changes between like the tactical, a little bit slower gameplay, and then later on when they had the patch that changed it to be a little bit more Twitch, a little bit more arcadey. Now, do you think that it is better to going forward to have more of the arcadey fast motion, like with the changes to the repair, being able to repair on the move, or do you like the more slower tactical? Because there seems to be kind of a debate going on with that as well. Me myself, I played more older back in the day when it was slower. I didn't realize the change until I played recently, so I can get a little up to speed. I didn't get to play enough to really realize the differences, but when I read, I did see people talk about the difference between the two, and I wanted to get your opinion on that.
I'm still holding out hope that we can allow for both of those play preferences. Obviously, the balance is going to become what's difficult. Because right now, a lot of the games, in my opinion, feel similar. They feel like there's not a big drastic difference in how you have to approach each mech. I know vets will completely vehemently disagree, but they've been able to pick up on the subtle differences, and really that matters when you start playing at higher and higher levels. The subtle differences between mechs matters a ton. I think for the newer players, you start to get a sense for, oh, this is the game, and it's not a whole ton different, I guess. And I think there's a level of interest that sort of gets lost. Now, get back to the original question, slower tactical or faster? I feel like when I played, it was too fast for me to really digest, to figure out what was going on. I didn't know what was going on for the first 3 to 5 days. And that's the key time, and that's when we lose all the players in Hawken. If someone can play for 7, 10 days, not 100% of the time, but once you get past 7 or 10 days, your brain has figured out what to see in the game, and it's more interesting. So at the very least, if we can make sure that the early play experience is slowed down a little bit, that's perfect. I don't think we need to slow down everything wholesale. We just need to make sure that newer players are able to experience something slow enough for the brain to figure out what's going on and sort of our targeting capacity to pick up on what to look for. And we'll just be able to get a higher population into the game, further into the game, to that point where they can start appreciating the faster speed.
Overall, just dealing with the community itself, you know, how has that been? You know, just, I mean, obviously there's ups and downs, but, you know, just overall in your job and capacity, like how has it been?
I'm very short on time all the time, and I'm always feeling kind of bad that I'm not able to put enough time into interacting. I tried a whole bunch early on, but I found that, man, it just half my day is gone just interacting with people. I mean, it sounds awful to say, but I'm sitting here thinking, man, I've got to get the systems working. I've got to figure out how to recreate staged environments because there's some documentation on how to build that. There's some weird reported bugs. We got like server lag reports or something. Is that actually happening? I don't know. And I come from an engineering background, so I tend to skew towards what's the sort of the deep low-level problem happening, or thing happening. I do know we have some immensely capable people in our community. They're good people too. They're really good. I know they're getting frustrated because not enough's happening fast enough, and I'd be the same way. I'd be all ticked off too. But it's definitely understandable. But everything is in place, and things are moving forwards. And if there's anything I can reinforce is that Hawken's going to be around for a long time. We take it very seriously that we need to do a good job. We don't need to do a job as soon as possible. This game is a significant development in gaming. It resonated with millions and millions of people for a reason. And we are just taking we're not going to rush it track, I think. And it's got a bright future. I'm excited.
Two things I saw come up a couple of times was about having like a map that or a play mode capture a flag, and also a non-Steam client for the game. Do you have any comments on those two?
Capture the flag mode. I know they'd started work on that in the past. I don't know exactly why it didn't get finished. I think it's just run out of time, money, that sort of thing, the realities. Definitely, yes. We definitely want to have, remember like the classic onslaught mode in Unreal Tournament 2004? We're going to have something like that. The control points would just be plain fun. Anyways, yes. And a non-Steam client, yes. We're actually working on that one.
All right, so just a little bit of fluff before I let you go, because, you know, I tried to hit you with a little journalism, try to put my journalism hat on, but now a little bit of fluff. So obviously, our website, Obsolete Gamer, we started off doing a lot of classic gaming stuff, and we always like to ask people about like classic games and stuff. So obviously, you probably played other games. Maybe you played some classic gaming. Two questions. What would be other games that kind of influenced your gaming habits, like games that you like to play? It could be modern games, but then also, is there like a classic game that you would list as your favorite?
All right, I was a giant Star Wars Galaxies sucker.
Oh, really? Like back in the day, or when they made it all just click after the combat patch?
Pre-NGE, pre-combat upgrades. The coolest thing is I get to work with Tiggs, the community manager from way back then, and nice. Yeah, it's kind of fun. And the classic game, River City Ransom on the Nintendo, I loved that game. I thought for what you could do with a game of that sort, which is kind of like the 2D side scroller type thing, they nailed it. That's a great game. I played hours and hours and hours and days.
Awesome. All right, so if you were to Futurecast, like, maybe you can't really give too much, but if you were to say like a year from now, is there like maybe some like juicy preview you could say of like maybe what you would hope to see like in a year from now for Hawken?
About a year from now, we'll have some, definitely before a year, we'll have some major, very interesting developments. And a lot more people are going to be able to play the game. And we're going to be adding in more game modes. And I think we're going to find the game modes that Hawken was screaming for. We're going to be having a lot more lore be released because there's a giant timeline that's been fully created for the world. And Ilal's got all kinds of cool stuff that has yet to be discussed or released and things. And we're going to be bringing a lot more of this game lore into the game itself. So when you play the game, you get this sense for this universe. And I think we're going to have a lot of people really excited. There would be some people who be really, really ticked off, I'm sure, because it's going a slightly different direction they're wanting. But I think most people are going to really, really enjoy it.
Awesome. Hey, well, at least I thank you very much for coming on and talking with us about this and answering all these questions, because one of the things that continued to be said over and over again was that at least having you come out and talk to people and having other people from the community come out and at least talk and give these answers has been appreciated. Yes, some people will be upset that they're not getting everything answered, but at least having that community support, having some feedback is great. And I've watched other streams and other interviews that you've given, and I know that people do appreciate that, and that's how I got some of my answers and research to do this interview. So thanks for that, and thanks for coming on and talking with us.
Dude, thanks for having me. This is exciting. Hawken's got a bright, really fun future. It's going to be enjoyable, and I think it's good fun.
Awesome. Well, and I hope that you guys that watched this enjoyed this. As I said, even though I'm not a Hawk vet, Hawken vet, I try my best. But thanks for watching GPS. I'm Jay LaRock, and we'll be back very soon with another episode. Until then, remember our motto: never stop gaming.